Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. It may be a different time zone than here in Central Texas because we have people from many different places today, which is a lot of fun. And I am Jan Triplett. I am your host for the Rebuilding Business Forum. It is January 28th, 2021, which means that it is probably getting pretty close to the end of the month. And as we discussed earlier before the recording started, some of us even have flowers. So spring is coming. And in the meantime, we're going to spring forward and talk about building businesses. The Business Success Center is what I do. We are sustainability experts. We focus on improving the triple bottom line for businesses, making sure that they're balancing not only life and work, but profit with care for people and the planet, because it's important. And we've certainly known since last March or before then that we are all united, and we're certainly united with moving forward. And that's what rebuilding is all about. We're here to help each other and to share expertise. This is not a discussion that you don't talk. I will encourage you to talk. You don't get to just sit back. This is a forum. So think of yourself in your purple toga in the middle of Rome or Athens, wherever you would like to be, where it's warm and pretty and people are listening to you. I'm very glad to have Dave Nave from Dave Nave and Associates talk about indispensable management. And I'm going to bring up the slide that you've seen before, which has the cover of his book and some information that you can reach back to. And so, Dave, take it away.
Okay, so I'm going to start off to say my name is Dave Nave of Dave Nave and Associates, and we specialize in the art and science of managing well. The bottom line, there's my tagline: assist clients to gain the knowledge to make the best informed choices for organizational transformation. And the approach that I usually use is to provide a new perspective, and from that new perspective, we end up with new insights about how to approach things. Today, I'm going to illustrate a principle of management that is not well understood, or it happens frequently and nobody really ever sees it. It involves creating competition between departments versus the cooperations. Now, this is an illustration, so this is not a case study. It's not real, but I'm trying to convey a principle, a set of ideas. So I made a company up, and it's a bread manufacturing global, and I am the manager and the only manager of a local division or local plant, and all we do is purchase material, bake it, and deliver it. Everything else, human resources, accounting, sales, is handled at the corporate level. We do have a pay for performance system in place. Workers work through a lead operator type of a situation. Okay, so the corporate came down last year with a big, hairy corporate improvement goal. So as the plant manager, I went out and asked every department to come up with ideas about how to improve the company. And on the left is ideas that came up from each group. Purchasing had 3, baking had 2, and delivery had 3. So when we said that it's going to be a positive output, if we optimize our area, then the company's going to do better. So I made those in big green pluses. And if it was a real life situation, of course, it would have some sort of performance number there. Could be dollars, could be whatever. I look at these and I say, okay, this is great. Continue on, everybody up and implement them. And what I found was one of the department started complaining about the changes that purchasing was implementing. And it was something's not right. So I say, okay, I'm going to investigate. I'm going to go out and take a look at the 3 areas that purchasing decided they're going to improve, the 3 attributes that they're going to change and improve, and exactly what was the effect that was having on the baking department. Well, in this case, it's negative. So I'm going to, and again, it would be real numbers, but I'm just going to use positive and negative. And we found out that the 3 areas that purchasing had changed for improvement of their area was actually hurting the baking department. So now I said, well, okay, that's not right. How does it how are these 3 projects affecting the delivery department? So we go out and we take a look and see that um, it's helping help the delivery, delivery, it's different stairs, different situations. So I said, well, gee, I wonder how the other projects are doing. So I go out and take a look at all the projects that were originally planned. Those are the big green plus signs. And we said, what effect is that having on individual departments? And you can see we got a whole table full of pluses and minuses. We said, well, that's weird. I wonder what it looks like when we look at the overall system. What effect is it having on the overall company performance? So now we go out and we say, purchasing project A was a positive for them. It was a negative for baking department, and it was negative for delivery. So overall for the company, it turned out to be negative. Now purchasing plan B worked good for them. It hurt baking, and but it did help delivery. So it's positive for the whole company. So we go through one by one and take a look at how this all pans out at the end. This is the end of the year now. This is how it actually ended up. Total up what happened. So the net effect on the company, by the time you take, -1, +1, -1, -1, go through it, you end up with a double negative. You got 2 negatives. The delivery department, they ended up with a wash. The baking department ended up with 4 of our measurements in the negatives. So it really hurt them. And of all the improvement projects, all 8 of them that we did, purchasing ended up with a positive 2. Now I'm the supervisor or the manager of this entire department, and I say this isn't really fair because everybody was going out doing the best they can. For the year, I'm just saying let's just spread the -2 over the 3 departments. I don't know if you've worked in these situations or not, but the corporate weenie comes in. Oops, I wasn't going to say that. Sorry. The corporate guy comes in and takes a look at what happened, and of course, it looks terrible. I get raked over the coals because I had a performance goal that was supposed to be done, and I didn't meet it. But however, I say, well, I learned something. I got a plan for next year. It's a little different. So give me a chance. Let's try it for next year and see what happens. I believe I can turn it around. So we go for year 2. Same thing. We're going to start over again. This time, we're going to come up with a whole new set of ideas. And you can see each of the departments came up with ideas. But this time, before we even start to implement them, we're going to coordinate with the other departments to see what they think the effect would be on their department. And as you can see, purchasing's idea number I was good for them, and it hurt baking and hurt delivery. However, their idea number J for year 2 was good for them, hurt baking, but it helped delivery. So overall for the company, it was good. So we go through this matrix and we decide, okay, before we do anything, before we go out and implement this stuff, we're only going to implement the stuff that works for the company. The ideas that they had that don't help the overall company output, we're not going to do. We're not going to throw them away, but they're good ideas, but we're just not going to do them this year. We'll address it a little later. So at the end of the year, this is what happens. So at the end of the year, we have a 3 positive. Delivery had a positive. The baking department only had 1 loss. Well, it's an improvement, right? But still, sorry for them. Purchasing ended up with 3 positives. So again, We have three. We're in this as a team. We're in this together. So I'm going to spread the distribution out into threes. And of course, the corporate guy comes down. He's happy. He likes what the results are, and he says, "Okay, I got a new goal for you. Do it again next year, except do it better this time." So I've got an idea about how that'll work. Now, so we have year 3. We've got a brand new, big, hairy corporate improvement goal. But during the whole process, the people, the different departments started talking to each other and said, and purchasing came up and said, well, you know, if I actually lowered the performance on one of my measures, it would help baking and delivery, and thus help the entire company. You know, here are some 3 new ideas. I hate to do this, but you know, our purchasing is a little leery about doing this, but they say, okay, the group decides, okay, let's try it. So the other groups go out and they determined, and they come up with ideas. In addition to ones that helps their performance, they come up with ideas that may be negative to them, but positive to the overall organization. Before we start anything, again, we're making these projections. And we're going to select only the projects that help the overall company. We're going to do the other projects, and they do it, and they come out with these great numbers. In the end, now we end up with 8 positives, whatever the number is. Delivery had 4. At least we got the baking department up to a break-even point. That's good. And purchasing had 4. So now for the entire company, we have an 8 positive, which we distribute over 3. I distribute it over the 3 departments as far as the performance appraisals are concerned. So the takeaways that I want is that when all departments are optimized, the organization will not be optimized normally. Cooperation between departments helps the overall health of the company so that everybody wins, and that you may have to sacrifice some sort of performance measure on your part to help, or your department, to help the overall company succeed. And what I've listed here is, on the second bullet, is that the company is a system with interactions and interdependencies. There are many systems or many things that management implements that actually destroys that systems approach. One of them is competition between departments. Now, during the example I just showed you, I just kind of fell into it because I didn't know anything else to do. But I've seen some companies that really want to make a competition between departments with goals and winnings, and you know, this department wins an extra day off or whatever. Something else that destroys the system is everybody doing their best. Pay for performance, incentive pay, merit pay, annual appraisals. This is management by objectives and management by results. Those are some really common things that are put into place, management practices that really interfere with the thinking of the organization as a system. Now, did I go? And that's all I have.
I think that's fascinating, and it was very clear. And I was trying to figure out how it was ever going to be positive. Dave, you did a great job. David Turpin, are you still with me?
I am. Do you want me to
Comment?
comment? You want to comment?
Yes, please.
When I was at the Fortune 500 company, I was a financial officer at, we used to have a saying says, always be extremely careful with your compensation system because it will always work. And that boils down to, and the question that came to, I had 2 questions that came to mind for this kind of situation. The first one was, how is everybody getting paid and compensated? Are they being compensated at the plant level, at a multi-plant group level? And at some point, does their individual contribution kind of disappear in the fog, and so they're not really motivated to do anything to help that? There's a balance to that. And secondly, I would have thought that the budgeting process in these situations should have kicked out the results of the suboptimal takeaways. But that then is not the fault of the purchasing, baking, or delivery groups. That is the responsibility of that plant manager. And it sounds kind of like in this particular setup, and there are a lot of companies that are like this, I'm not picking on Dave, that you got the corporate nerd who is second guessing a function and performing after the fact a function that should have been done on the front end before the budget was approved and the changes were implemented.
Good points. Teresa, are you still with me?
Yes, I am.
What would you like to add? You're a coach. What would you do for this company?
I'm kind of laughing because all those things is, everybody's doing their best, the competition. Yes. And you always have to look at, like, what's the holistic goal of the company? What is the overall vision? What are we doing? Why are we doing it? And doing like team facilitation is a key thing to making sure the departments cooperate versus compete. And getting underneath of all that, the animosity, having a background in high tech, the hardware software groups is my typical thing that people think about. So yeah, and understanding, like the other gentleman said about pay, and also whatever your metrics are, whatever you measure is what you will find comes to the top.
Very good point. Very good point. And Genevieve, of all of us, you're the one who has sort of these different departments in the remodeling biz. Have you seen or heard about this happening in maybe competitors' businesses where maybe the carpenters don't talk to the electricians who don't talk to the plumbers?
That's a good question. I'm not really sure. I guess I haven't yet. It's maybe more of an experience thing too, to really answer that question. Yeah, I don't think so. No, I don't think so. But I'm not sure. Hopefully I'm understanding the question and whatnot. But I can't recall anything.
How do you,
I want
Genevieve,
to
how do
pipe in.
you manage competition between your different trades?
Are you talking about competition between myself as a company and other companies? Is that what you mean?
No, but because you do bathrooms and you do kitchens, you have plumbing, electricians, painters, all of the people who are involved in the remodeling process. So are there, and maybe it is, you're right, maybe it is between your company, Walsh's, and these other trades who have other businesses. How do you manage the competition and whose fault it is, things of that sort?
I mean, I think we work really well with, like our subcontractors and whatnot. I think that if there's an issue that comes up, I mean, Miles is usually the one who really talks to the people, the company, I should say, and the owner of the company, and kind of works something out. If it's something that may have happened. We had a piece of countertop tile, and please let me know if you don't have time for me to tell you this, or if this is not along these lines. But we had a piece of tile for a countertop that got cut incorrectly. And it was the only one that the homeowner had found and just fell in love with. And so we had to find a work around that. And so Miles was able to talk to the owner of that company, and we were able to make it still work for the homeowner, which was good. But things like that happen. And it's just a conversation. It's just a good working relationship that we try to have with everybody, all trades and all companies that we work with.
Excellent point. Dave, Nave, you were about to say something, and I apologize, I stepped on you. I didn't mean to.
Oh no, that's all right. In the case of construction, Genevieve hasn't rushed it yet, but she will. I live in a house now that the plumber drilled a drain for the bathtub right through one of the support beams underneath and on the flooring, and never fixed it.
Oh my.
So I've got it's the fact they don't talk to each other, and I've talked to other construction where they build houses, and the electrician needs to talk to the plumber, and they need to all talk to each other. They need to realize it's a house they're building for somebody else. Sometimes some builders do get them all the trades together and go through it. Some don't.
Well, I think that's one of the big takeaways too, Dave, is how important communication and conversation is, not just doing it in your own silo and getting your own people together or thinking in your own head, but actually working with the other people who are involved. Wonderful presentation. Other comments or questions before we go on? We have a few minutes left.
Yeah, I've actually seen this firsthand at my previous firm.
Oh, Ricky, great.
Between departments.
Uh-huh.
So for logistical reasons, the previous firm I was part of was broken into teams, just so managers didn't have to manage too many people, had an amount of people that they could. But in early 2019, a competition was put in place between the teams. But before that point, there had been a lot of work between teams. A manager of Team A would help a team member of Team B with a project previously. And as the competition went along, you saw a lot less of that. And it was much harder to get the full attention of manager A on a project for Team B. And so Team B suffered because of that, because they could no longer get the attention they needed on a project from a manager that was more focused on his team directly.
Well, Ricky, this is one of the things about the forum. We so appreciate you bringing in those real life things as well. I hope you'll come back. That was a great example. Doug Hall, do you have something you'd like to contribute?
I think it depends on the size of the business. I know that my clients, who are usually less than 50, try to implement competition between the different departments, their different services, and to see sort of on an annual basis. And so I can see how it would affect a large business, but I'm not sure that the competition between departments is a bad thing.
Jan, I'd like to respond to Doug Hall's comment. When a company deliberately sets up competition between groups, what they're doing is creating one group of losers and one group of winners. And my question normally is, why would any company hire in the best candidates that they have, put a lot of training into them, and have them be active contributors to the organization, and then decide they're going to set up a system that calls them losers? I do not understand that, but many companies do.
Okay, good point. Again, I'm so glad, Doug, that you brought that up, because in a forum, all viewpoints are helpful as we all evaluate it. Bill, what would you like to add to this discussion? Are you with me, Bill? I see you, just don't hear you. Maybe not. Okay, well, we only have a few minutes left, and Bill, if you're able to hear me and want to come in at some point and give us your idea, I appreciate it. So I'm going to share the February 26th, when our wonderful Dave Nave will be back talking about visible, tangible, and indispensable management strategy for a whole hour. I'm hopeful that he's going to also show us some of the Canvas stuff that he has in his book to help us do a better job. So thank you, Dave, so much.